as a human desire, naturally, no matter where we're at, no matter what circumstances are, um, when we look at the car you're driving, the house you're living in, where you came from, your upbringing, no matter where that's at, we all have a desire to do better, to have more in that. And so, with saying that, I want us to kind of look at what does that look like for us and that desire for more. I talked about that last week on kind of the first Tune In Tuesday back. That desire for more is really what makes us as individuals allergic to the average, because in the culture and the world around us, that is so easy to lose the sense of, having more, discovering more, becoming more, gaining more, and whatever that more is. A lot of times it's easy to really lose that desire for more, or have that belief that there is more, or that you can become more, or that you can give more, that you can make more. And so I talked about that last week, and as a reminder for you guys, I don't ever like to come from a place where like these are things that I've just completely mastered and have conquered, and I'm coming as this expert that knows everything. I'm in the process. I've continued to be in the last 15 years, primarily 10 years of my life, and discovering this and being on this type of journey just like you, to continue to grow into what is more. And so much of what this is going beyond just what we experience in just our natural reality of what we get every day, what we see, what we feel, what we experience. I was having a conversation yesterday, shout out to Daniel and Sarah, and we were talking about this idea of the, what is the iceberg model? Maybe you've seen that before. And if you've ever seen the Titanic, there's images and clips within the movie where you kind of saw that, right? Like as far as in the water, there's this giant iceberg, but as you look at really the surface of the water and what's coming out, it's not a whole lot. It's just maybe a glimpse of really how big beneath the water that iceberg is. And so that iceberg model of like really from the surface of the water and what is on top of that is really what we see every day for our own personal lives. The experiences of feelings and emotions and the exchanges of individuals and how we experience them. Sometimes we come across people and just to be honest, they're just not it, right? Their attitude, or they seem like they're such an a-hole towards you for no reason, right? They're pissed, they're angry. And so on the other side of that, a lot of times you could see somebody that, they're in good spirits. They're happy, or they seem at least, like a pleasant person to be around. And so much of that, all of that really, I would say, is what's going on beneath the surface. And when I say beneath the surface, I'm talking about us as individuals, because within the iceberg model, what you see is actually generated and stemmed from something deeper. It's really the inner work of us as individuals. And so the experience, the lens that we carry within our day, the emotions, the expressions that we give to others, so much of that is coming from, I would almost say it's safe to say all of that is coming from what's happening beneath the surface, what's taking place in our mind, what's taking place in our heart. And so much of that, the beliefs about what is true and real, what do we believe about people? What do we believe about, their potential, our potential, how the world works. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about and elaborate on is, the design of us. If we're looking at the caption, the prime time, it's prime time to step into your design. And so much of that comes into realizing and understanding more and more that prime time is really whenever we decide. It's really whenever, for a lot of us, including myself, sometimes we get to experiencing so much pain in our life, right? Pain, maybe that's physically, with your health, factors of nutrition. Sometimes it's the pain of, financially not being there, not having the finances to live and to express and experience the life that you want. Sometimes it's the pain of feeling lonely, like you have no relationships, you have no people. Sometimes it's the pain of just not being fulfilled, not having enough in your life. And so whatever the pain is, often that's really what gets us to decide, hey, I want and I need something different. I need to be able to express a different way of living. I need to feel more fulfilled. I want to be happier, right? And so a lot of times we wait or we think something special has to happen, has to really be created for us to shift into something else. But it's actually the design of who we are to pick and decide on when that time is going to be. And so we like to think that, hey, it's not going to be once I wait and I'm in, a lot of pain, or I'm experiencing a lot of pain in my life, then I'll decide to. But often we do. And so no matter where you're at today, maybe you feel fulfilled. Maybe you are wanting more. Maybe you are desiring more, like we've talked about. But in general, how do we stay in that process of continuing to grow in that? And so I want to talk about the design of us. And so, the neuroscience of how we were created and how we operate has always been fascinating to me. And so it wasn't anything that I, went to school for. It was always something that I've self-educated and taken in and helped others to understand. And a lot of that came from me really trying to understand my relationship with my beliefs and my thoughts, and really how much this dictates in our life. And so we're going to hop into the nitty gritty here. And so again, if you're watching, man, I see we got 8 on there. Heck yeah. Throw a comment in there. Let me see you're on. I've seen some hearts. I know Giovanni's on. The one true, my queen, and whoever else is on, man, let me know. I'd love to see it. As well as if you got any questions, throw those in the comment section there, and let me see if I can catch those. But again, I wanted to talk about taking us back into really how we are, again, designed. If you've been a part of our journey in Allergic to Average, we talk a lot about you were created to create. And so at the end of this, I want to bring us back to, I see Vic's on. I love it. Let's go. And so how much of that goes back into you were created to create? And the question becomes, what do you want to create? What are you creating? And so I've seen so often how much that we don't realize the brilliance that we carry as individuals. We don't understand often how intelligent we really are and what we were designed and given in this life and in this world. And in the only expression of what do we see as ours? Like this life that you live is real and true for you. And so much of that, if you're not really up to date often, and we're not taught this growing up. We're not taught this necessarily even in school, but how brilliant we really are. I mean, I talk about just the body and the intelligence in the body, from the fact of like the body wants to continue to, all it knows is to help and heal you and to find you. And I'm talking as simple as, man, it wasn't too long ago, I was actually doing some work in this office, and I accidentally cut my thumb. And so on my thumb, I had this slit, and it was nasty and it was ugly. But one thing that I knew and I could trust, I didn't know how long it was going to take, that this wound would eventually heal itself, right? And so from our bodies being able to readjust into, Sarah, I see you. Thanks for hopping on. From our bodies being able to just carry that type of resilience. I see you, Dub. Thanks for joining, man. To even the things that we are creating within the inner infrastructure of our hearts and our minds. Again, we're not taught this. We're not brought to the realization of how powerful that is. And so the design of who you are, it started way back, and I talk so often about, from the years, and this is science, right? This is studies, this is neuroscience. And so much of what you believe and what you understood about the world and how the world operated and how the things in the world, like relationships and money, finances, opportunity, potential, even your beliefs about you, were really conducted from the ages of 0 to 5, often even up to, the ages of 0 to 7 years old. And so these understandings of what you believed was true, right, is really what we continue to carry for the rest of our life, even without realizing that. And so what happens is often we see, I'll give you an example and I'll give you a story at the same time. I'm not going to mention his name, but there's an individual on our moving crew. Shout out to Rescue One Movers. And, this is probably the biggest guy that we have on our team of movers. And this individual is terrified of dogs, right? And so every time we show up to a job, and this had just happened, we moved some individuals from Amarillo to Dallas at the end of last week. And we walked into the house and there was these two miniature, I forget the name of them. I'm going to mess it up, but they were like squirrely greyhound dogs. I forget, but they're the sweetest things, right? They come up to us and man, they were acknowledging us and welcoming us and licking and all this. Well, this individual, our buddy, he saw the dogs and he just stayed back. He stayed at the truck and he was like, nah, I'm good, right? And this has been a number of times that we show up to a job, the cutest, sweetest, most cozy, comfy looking dog that you could imagine. It doesn't matter to him. There is a belief, right, in his mind that dogs equals bad. Dogs equals dangerous. Dogs equals do not trust. And so I bring that up and it's crazy to see because everybody on the crew is like, bro, come on, dude, look at this dog. This is probably the dog that's actually going to bring you healing. This is the dog that's going to be able to, bring you back from this fear of, all dogs are bad. Even the sweetest ones, even the Chihuahuas, even what we call the Sandis, right? No matter the dog, he is terrified of him. He wants nothing he won't even go into the house. And so I bring that back to we are designed, our brain, the way this thing operates, right? The way that we operate in our design is, our brain stores these experiences. And so I know this about him. Okay, let me give him a little grace and a little context to this. When he was younger, I can't remember exactly how young, but he had gotten bit by a dog, right? And so in those early, see, Rescue One Movers, they know who I'm talking about. In those earlier years for this individual, he had an experience, of course, that dogs equals bad, right? And so his brain took in that experience, right? And through his neuron connections, the synapses connections that continue to find understanding, he has continued to take in this experience and this truth, this AKA belief that dogs are bad. And so he is, again, this is not the smallest or the middle-sized guy in our crew. This is the biggest guy, okay? The tallest, biggest dude that we have. And it's funny to look at how scared and afraid he is of these even small, cute, cuddly dogs. But that experience at one time gave him the meaning that became a belief, right? And so over time, though that belief is hardwired in his mind, and it became more and more evidence that belief was true. And so every time that he sees a dog, even at the age that he is now, as a young man, he has continued to go back and reevaluate the fact that dogs are dangerous. There's evidence of it. And it's almost as if the past, right, has been brought into the present, and that is still true to this day. So it doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter how cute they are. It doesn't matter how small they are. That experience has created a belief, and that belief has created from the past into the present, an experience that still stands true for him, even if it's not true. Now, that is true for every single one of us. And it may not be a fear of dogs, right? But it could be a sense of rejection. I know for me personally, the way that money works, the way that our world would operate, even with opportunity, was so different. My belief growing up and seeing, in the home that I grew up in, the family that I had, how hard it seemed to make money, even the extent of things that people would do or go through to make money, right? To lower character, to bend, to sway, to get into illegal activity, to make this thing called money. it created a belief in me that money is hard to make. Money is rare. It's only for a select few. And so this list of things, right, that we have had these experiences with have really created the experience and the understanding that we take into our world, right? And so much of this comes back to, what do we believe is true and real for today? Because the thing and the brilliance of our brain is it's the perfect mechanism for survival, right? That's the reason why our brain will take the first time you got rejected in any sense of that. It could have been you got laughed at in elementary school. You got rejected by a guy or a girl. You try to put yourself out there and try, and you got shut down, right? They're creating they're creating an experience that you found more and more evidence for, because our brain looks for how can we protect ourselves from staying away from this pain. How do we actually find a way and a better way to survive? And we live off of, and we collect this evidence from, the people around us growing up. Moms, dads, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, teachers, like you name it. And so our brain is beautifully designed to keep us protected, to keep us safe, to keep us in a place where we're thriving as best as we can in a moment of, this looks dangerous, so I'm going to stay over here, right? It wants to keep you moving and grooving without all the things that might maybe end your life, take your life, or really just bring you down in life in any degree of that. And so it's your brain has this beautiful intelligence to keep you in a beautiful state of keeping you safe. And it's, again, a perfect way to keep you in survival mode. But the problem with that, as you can see, is if we do not come in and we don't challenge these beliefs, if we don't actually decide, and so much of this I want to give, because I'm gonna share some things that I've learned and I've been really just dissecting and diving into with the guy named David Bear. And I would actually shout out David Bear and have you look into his stuff. But so much of what we understand is come from a past or an old way of experiencing life. And so I'll just let you guys know, in my own belief of what is true and real, I would say primarily in the last year, I've had the biggest challenge of upgrading and letting go of these old beliefs, these old decisions that I made. So one of the things I want to share with you is, so often we see that our beliefs, we're not even aware of them unless we actually spend time truly understanding, what do I believe is real and true? And so in that, we see that, it's not until we come face to face with something and we kind of shut ourselves down, or maybe we will self-sabotage out of it, or maybe we kind of talk ourselves out of that we actually start to really come up to the truth of, what do you actually believe is true? And so, again, within the last 2 years, but primarily this last year, there was a lot of things that in life, to get to the next level or to really step out and take that risk, I was really challenged with. And do I really believe in my potential? Do I really believe that is true and real for me? And so much of really where we're going comes back to, what do you believe? What do you actually and honestly believe is true and real? And so I go back to, and I think about, one of the foundational scripture that we started out with and continue to carry with Allergic to Average is Romans 12:2. And the scripture reminds us, that we have to be transformed by a new way of thinking. Okay, I'm going to give you, a concise, just quick version of that. But it goes back to the emphasis of, you got to transform your way of thinking, right? You got to be able to upgrade and update these things that you have carried for so long, and maybe it served you at once, but it's no longer true. And so a lot of times we have to go back and realizing that, what are we deciding to be true for us by what do we actually believe is true and real for us? And if it's something that a lot of times whenever we think about, oh, what do I believe? And then maybe we're thinking about, hey, I believe that, I can have more in life. I can get the promotion. I can have more income. I can have more fulfillment in my relationships. I can have better friends. But then whenever it comes time to stepping into that, you start to talk yourself out of it, or you start to feel like, oh man, I don't know, actually, right? That belief then it's your actual belief is really a default way of thinking. It's really something that you were given or you picked up or you decided a long time ago. And so your beliefs, one of the things I love that David Barrett's taught is your beliefs are really decisions. And so at some point, just like this individual on our moving crew, he decided because of this experience of not having a pleasant situation with a dog, he decided that dogs are dangerous. Dogs are bad, right? And so over time, that decision is what really became his belief. He decided in that moment, without even realizing it, right? This is the conclusion, and this is still the reality he lives from. And so for us, it's the exact same thing. At any given moment, when it came to your potential, when it came to your greatness, when it came to you not being an average, ordinary, when it came individual, when it came to what is possible and true, when it came to how the world operates, we decided at some point that is what we believe, and that is how it works. And so it's our responsibility, right, to get out of being just another average, taking the default in what was and operating in that as it's still true, it's still real. To get out of that, to shift into something new, right, we have to decide different. We have to decide on who we want to be. We have to decide on what is actually true for me. And then we have to begin to walk in, step in the new evidence of that. And so one thing that I've talked about for a while is the brilliance of our brain. And in that, the brain has the reticular activating system, right? And in that is the filter of the brain that actually, allows you to process, and it weeds out the trillions and millions and billions of all the information that we take in through our five senses. And if we did it all at once, if we didn't have this beautiful filter helping us to see what to focus on, what's important, it would be overwhelming. It would be too much for us. And so the reticular activating system, what it does is it helps us to focus on this idea of what we find to be true, right? What we find to be important, what we find ourselves putting our focus on, it helps us to actually find and see more of that. And so that can be in a negative sense. So if we believe and we've decided that people are bad, people are out to take advantage, people are out to wrong you, which is really easy to do in the world that we live in, social media, the news, it's really easy to find the evidence of that. You will see that, you will find that. But if we start to tap into this understanding and we start to really partner with this belief, this decision that, hey, I believe that overall people they want to be good. They desire good. But, and this is really a personal one for me, not everybody knows how to be good. Not everybody knows how to be nice. Not everybody knows how to share a pleasant experience or how to be a friendly person necessarily. All they know is anger. All they know is, bitterness. That's just what they've experienced, and that's the belief that they've taken. And so we have to decide on something different. And so I have something real quick just to show you in this understanding of what this looks like, so much of generating our beliefs, what we're talking about, your decisions, what you decide is actually true, what you decide is real, right? This is actually going to dictate the thoughts, right? As a man thinks, so is he. Gandhi has a quote, I'm going to butcher this up, but it goes back to this understanding that the thoughts that a man really is, the thoughts that they carry and they actually conduct. And really what you think about is what you're becoming. Right? And so in that, your beliefs actually start to dictate the thoughts that you carry around something. And those thoughts, as you generate those thoughts, you carry those thoughts, those give you this, they release a vibration, a chemical release, right? That give you these feelings. So that's why whenever you have a belief that you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're just not enough, then that belief actually starts to, you don't even realize the belief on the conscious level, but on the conscious level, that belief starts to give you actually conscious thoughts. You start to actually think and express those thoughts, right? And so from those thoughts, those generate feelings. It gives you an actual expression of, man, I don't know, and then you start feeling like you're inadequate, you're not capable of, you can't, you don't really got what it takes, and it starts to redefine that, right? And so those feelings actually move you into the action or lack of, right? Action. And so in that, those actions start to dictate really what brings us into the results that we're either experiencing or we're not, right? And then those results go back and give us the evidence of what we have believed to be true. And so in this, I want us to see that so much of this is, are we lacking? Uh-oh. I might give it a second. Okay, I think we're back. Sorry if we reached the pause there. Okay. But I'll give you a recap real quick. Hopefully you didn't miss too much of that. But again, these beliefs, right? And I'll give you the example of how this fits, but this also is true for every single one of us. That belief for this individual on our moving crew, that dogs are bad, right? Every time he sees a dog, cute, cuddly dog, right? He has those thoughts. Those thoughts give him a feeling, which I'm sure if I actually had talked to him and actually got to, look into what are the feelings that you feel when you see a dog. It's probably some fear. It's probably some tension. He probably has some tightness. He probably somewhere can actually feel in his body the feeling of these thoughts that are reminding him that dogs are bad. And guess what? In that situation, he completely avoids it, right? Wants to be anywhere else that he possibly can than in the same room or in the same place as this dog. And as a result of that, he continues to avoid, stay away from, and really relive the evidence that dogs are bad, which gives him the conclusion and reminds him again of the belief. And it's just a constant cycle. So for us, our beliefs really dictate our destiny. And I want you to hear that, right? As I've kind of come into a close here, I wanted us to think about what are the beliefs that you are carrying, because your beliefs really do dictate your destiny, where you're going. And it's not even, as I move back over here, it's not even so much of what our circumstances are. A lot of us, we experience, again, rejection. We've all experienced pain. We've all had just really unfortunate things happen in life. We've all had forms of things not going the way we planned. We've all felt the pressure of needing to, what feels like, make more, have more, do more. But I wanted to bring us back to this idea of that before we really get to all that, before we really step into focusing on, again, the top of the iceberg, so much of what is actually dictating and taking you into your destiny and where you will go and keeping you moving in the direction of more is really, what do you believe is true? What do you actually see, and what have you decided that is going to be true? And so I wanted to just bring that understanding, because even for me, knowing this, right, understanding these ideas, so much of that has been things that I've had to revisit and really make true for myself. In this last season, again, being face to face with making decisions and stepping into the more for myself, stepping into the next level, I've really had to go back and see, hey, what do I believe is true? What do I believe is real? And there's been a lot of things that I'm still carrying this belief that is not true. I decided at some point that maybe there's a ceiling when it comes to this part of my life, or maybe that's a good idea. That's a cool dream to have, but is that really true for me? And so, not only for myself, but so many individuals, including yourself, this is where we're at. This is where we're coming from. So your beliefs are dictating your destiny, and it's not about where you were, where you've been, where you've come from, the circumstances you're facing, that's really ever going to stop you. It's actually your ability to partner with your desire and your belief for more. And this is challenging because, again, what we've had up until this point for the longest time is the evidence that has proved to us, well, I can't do that. Who am I to think that I can do that? Who am I to think that I can take this on? Who am I to think that I'm good enough for, I could do, like, you name it, because your brain has found the evidence and has given you the proof that that thing, that belief is true. But when you begin to decide again, when you begin to give yourself the permission to decide and to believe in something new, something else that could be true, the intelligence of who we are, the intelligence of this brain and this inner infrastructure that we carry actually starts to open up, and it actually starts to find new evidence of this new belief. It actually starts to find new coincidences. It actually starts to find new situations, things. You can call it the universe. I call it God, Holy Spirit. It actually gives room for our God to move on your behalf. It actually leaves your life in this position of, instead of being closed and shut off and really just decided on this idea that you're not good enough, there is no more for you, it actually allows that to be opened up. In these, again, situations, these synchronicities, these coincidences, they start to find you more and more. And so I found that to be true in both sides. When I've been convinced and already made up my mind that that's not going to happen, a lot of times, right, it doesn't happen. But the power of your belief is really what changes us in being just average and being versus being extraordinary. And so I want to come to a close there because I know I've been going a minute, but I hope this sparks something in you, or at least gives you the idea and really understanding of how powerful your beliefs are. And maybe you're not aware of that, right? As I close, maybe you're not aware of what you believe in these different areas, right? And so, look, I will say this, as I continue to walk out my own journey in this, I also have a passion and really a heart to do that with others. And so maybe it's some mindset mentoring, maybe it's just some deeper questions. Is that something, if that is something that you are interested in, man, DM me, maybe ask me some questions about how maybe you and I can work on this and go to a deeper level of visiting beliefs and really how to shift into some things and get out of and stay out of more and more this default average, really what we see in just ordinary way of thinking and processing, because we have enough of that going on in our world today, right? And a lot of times when you stay in that default and those average ways of believing and thinking, a lot of times it starts to put this pressure on a self-centeredness that you have to take it, you have to find it, and people start to really just become a mess. And that's really where I see so much of a chaos from groups or individuals, through violence, through division, because they believe that they have a belief that it's me versus them. There's not enough to go around. You know, if I don't take, if I don't have, if I don't do it myself, then nobody else is. And it really leaves us in a dangerous and sometimes disgusting place as a society, as a community, in our world in general. And so my heart, my passion is to really continue to grow in that and to help others to really see how to experience that for themselves. And so reach out to me. Let me know if that's something that you're interested in. Maybe you have some questions on how to work one-on-one with me. And man, I'd love to let you know what that looks like and what we could figure out in moving forward. And so I'm going to bring it to an end on another Tune In Tuesday. And again, I hope that you found some value, that this has served you, and it brought some maybe joy to you in the way that it's brought some joy to me today, to be able to just speak to you, to have your time, your attention, your focus today. I'm grateful for that. I appreciate that. And so keep grinding, keep growing, and keep, man, just doing what it takes to not just stay in what feels like this stagnant, sometimes just like this is what it has to be placed. um, continue to just tap into the understanding and the truth of your brilliance, who you are. You're not average, right? You're not ordinary. You're extraordinary. You're allergic to average. And so I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. And I'll see you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.